My name is Thomas Reilly. I'm 64 years old, and I've spent nearly 3 decades keeping halcyon systems running. That was how I introduced myself to the man sitting across from me, though he already knew who I was. Daniel Myers, 30-something, sleek suit, MBA from Stanford or somewhere similar. The kind of guy who uses words like synergy and disruption without irony. "I know this is difficult," he said, avoiding eye contact while scrolling through something on his laptop. "But as part of our organizational restructuring, we're having to make tough choices." I sat in the conference room I'd walked past every morning at 5:30 a.m. for the past 29 years and 11 months. My hands rested in my lap, calm, controlled. "You're letting me go," I said, more for clarity than confrontation. "It's not personal, Mr. Reilly," he replied, finally glancing up. "It's just business." Of course it was, for days. That's all I had left until my 30th work anniversary, the mark that would have triggered my full pension benefits, 30 years of dedicated service, and they were cutting me loose with 4 days to go. Daniel slid a folder across the table, standard termination paperwork, final pay stub, instructions for COBRA insurance, return of company property. I'd walked new hires through this process for years. I'd never imagined I'd be on the receiving end of it. I signed every line without a word. Used the same black ballpoint I'd carried in my shirt pocket for half a decade. The halcyon logo on it had faded, just like everything else. "Your badge and keys," Daniel said, holding out a hand like he was collecting items from a rental car return. I removed the worn badge from my belt, the plastic scratch from thousands of swipes. My face on the ID looked younger, fuller hair, eyes that believed in retirement promises. The keys, master keys, weighed more than they ever had. They opened every electrical closet, every maintenance door, every server cage in the complex. I placed them in his palm like closing the lid on a casket. Then I stood, tucked the folder under my arm, and walked out. I passed the open cubicles, faces I knew, people I'd trained, folks who had no idea what had just happened in the room down the hall. Past the break room where I ate my lunch at the same table every day. Past the security desk where the guards nodded but didn't make eye contact. The parking lot was nearly empty. My old Chevy truck started up like always, reliable, like me. I sat in the driver's seat with the engine humming. I stared at the building I'd spent nearly a third of my life keeping upright. Literally. I kept the plumbing working, the electrical systems from overloading, and the HVAC from freezing over in January. It wasn't glamorous, but it mattered. It all started when I was 35, not long after my first marriage ended and my bank account hit zero. The job at Halcyon was supposed to be temporary, stopgap, but it came with benefits and a promise. "Stick with us, and we'll take care of you when it counts." And I did. I stayed. Back then, Halcyon was small, 2 buildings and 50 employees trying to figure out what kind of tech company they wanted to be. I helped them grow into 4 buildings across the district. Helped oversee construction of the new data center. Handled the building permits when the city inspectors came calling. Showed the new guys how to read blueprints, how to manage vendors without getting fleeced. Most of those guys moved on. Bigger roles, better pay. I stayed, because this place became my foundation. My wife, Leila, passed away 8 years ago after a brutal battle with cancer. Halcyon's insurance helped cover most of it. Back then, the company still had a heart. Her funeral filled half the chapel with coworkers. They brought casseroles. Hugged me. Called. That was before Daniel Myers showed up. 3 years ago, he replaced my old boss, a straight shooter named Gerald, who wore flannel and believed in pensions. Daniel came in with polished shoes and a polished smile. Said things like value alignment and operational efficiency. But he never said good morning when we passed in the hall. Things changed, slowly. At first, I stopped getting invited to monthly ops meetings. Budget submissions I used to file and forget came back full of red marks and questions. Do we need this many maintenance contracts? Can we skip some of the annual inspections? Is it safe for someone your age to still be handling roof access? I brushed it off. Figured he'd settle in eventually. Realize how much institutional knowledge lives in a guy like me. But then came the new hire in facilities, a younger guy, eager, asking oddly specific questions about my responsibilities. Questions he wouldn't be asking unless someone planned for him to take over. I should have paid more attention, asked more questions. But I was so close to the finish line. For days, all I could think about was making it through to the end and finally taking my grandkids to Disney without checking PTO balances. That night, I spread the paperwork out on my kitchen table, the same one Leila picked out when we bought the house. Something didn't sit right. According to Daniel's documents, my service was listed at 29 years and 10 months, but I started in December 12, 1994. I remembered it clearly because it was 1 week before Christmas, and my first paycheck helped me buy my daughter her first bike. I pulled out my old file box, kept every pay stub, every policy update, every HR memo. Leila used to tease me about being obsessive. But that habit saved me. The numbers didn't lie. 29 years and 11 months. I was for days away from 30 years. And the documents had been adjusted to make it look like I didn't qualify for full retirement. On purpose or convenient accident, that's when I remembered Helen Grant. She was the HR director before Daniel reorganized the whole department, retired last spring after 15 years of playing by the book. Rumor had it she was consulting now, helping companies avoid labor violations and lawsuits. I found her number in my address book and stared at it for a long time. Making the call meant admitting I'd been played. It meant fighting back. But looking at the neatly organized proof in front of me, decades of service, hard numbers, honest work, something in me snapped into focus. Not rage, not fear, clarity. I picked up the phone and dialed. Helen answered on the second ring. "Tom Reilly," she said. "I heard what they did. Let's fix it." Monday morning, I loaded 3 boxes into the back of my truck. They were filled with nearly 3 decades of documentation, pay stubs, policy memos, performance reviews, building permits with my initials, and printed emails I had filed away over the years just in case. Leila used to shake her head when I kept everything, but she'd always say, "Better safe than sorry." Turns out she was right. Helen Grant's office was in a modest 2-story building just outside the city. There was no receptionist, no fancy water dispenser. Just Helen, in a gray sweater, her glasses perched low on her nose as she greeted me with the same firm handshake I remembered from her HR days. "Set the boxes here," she said, clearing a spot on the large oak table in the middle of her office. "Let's take a look." She moved quickly, efficient, like she was reading blueprints instead of paperwork. She opened folders, skimmed documents, highlighted lines, and made notes on a yellow legal pad with crisp, clean handwriting. Her brow furrowed as she flipped through Daniel's termination notice. "This isn't a miscalculation," she said flatly after 10 minutes. "This is deliberate." "I thought so," I replied quietly. She leaned back in her chair and crossed her arms. "You understand what this means, Tom? What they did? Terminating you for days before your pension vests and backdating your service record isn't just shady. It's illegal." I stared at her. "Illegal?" "Federal law prohibits employers from firing someone just to avoid paying out earned retirement benefits. But we have to prove that's why they did it. Not just bad timing, but intent, evidence, a pattern. I've got every pay stub," I said. "And the memo Daniel sent out last month about benefit clarifications." Helen raised her eyebrows. "He put it in writing." I pulled the memo from one of the folders. She read it, then held it up like she'd found buried treasure. "This is gold," she said. "It shows they were still acknowledging continuous service. Then they fire you based on a different calculation. It's sloppy or arrogant. Either way, it's useful." She laid out the plan. "We'd file a complaint with the Department of Labor. Quietly, no calls to the company. No social media. Let them think I walked away quietly. Bring this box, this one, and this one," she said, pointing. "We'll need them for the initial filing. I'll scan everything and prep the complaint myself. If they really tried to defraud you, we'll make sure they pay, and not just with a handshake and a cheap apology." I nodded. "Thank you," she softened. "Just a little. Don't take me yet. This kind of thing isn't over in a week. It might take months. And once they find out we filed, they're going to come for you." She wasn't wrong. The very next afternoon, my phone rang. Daniel Myers. I almost didn't answer. But something told me I needed to hear what he'd say. Tom, he started, voice cool and casual. I've heard you've been talking to people. Hope you're not planning on making things difficult for everyone. I didn't say anything. We followed policy to the letter, he continued. Your service record clearly shows 29 years and 10 months. I have the documents, you sure about that? I asked. Your start date was January 10, 1995, he said, clearly reading from a screen. Termination date was November 8, 2024. Do the math. I felt my jaw tighten. I started on December 12, 1994. I had the original offer letter, the orientation materials, my first badge receipt. But he was setting the trap, trying to get me to argue on the phone, to make it seem like I was just confused. I'm not looking for trouble, I said. That's good, he said smoothly. Because if someone files a false complaint against Halcyon, we'll have to protect ourselves. That includes looking into that person's full employment record. Violations, conduct, use of company time and resources. Things people might have overlooked in the past. Just something to keep in mind. There it was. The threat, push us, and we'll ruin you. I hung up. Then I called Helen. He's nervous, I said. She let out a short laugh. He should be. The next evening, Helen called again. Her voice was different, energized. They're moving fast, she said. The Department of Labor has been monitoring Halcyon for over a year. You're not the only one, Tom. That hit me like a ton of bricks. There were others, I asked. 3 so far. Long-time employees, all in their 60s, all fired within weeks of hitting pension eligibility. And every single one of them had discrepancies in their service records. I felt a cold weight settle in my chest. I believed I was just unlucky. A target of opportunity. But this was a strategy. They've already subpoenaed internal emails, Helen continued. And guess what? Daniel and the new HR director, his pet project, Amanda Green. They weren't even smart enough to hide what they were doing. Used company email, named names, talked about reducing long-term liabilities. My name? 6 times in the last 3 months. It was all coming together. The meetings I was excluded from, the young new hire in my department, the questions about inspections and safety, the sudden review of my maintenance logs. They planned it, I said quietly. Yes, they did. Helen paused. Then her tone shifted. There's more, Tom. The investigator from the Department of Labor wants to interview you Thursday. And they're bringing someone from the Criminal Fraud Division. I blinked. Criminal? When you use electronic systems, like email, to coordinate a scheme to deny earned employee benefits, it qualifies as wire fraud. That's a federal crime. Underscore 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 Thursday morning. I sat across from 2 investigators in a downtown federal building. Both were polite, professional, and very thorough. They asked me to go year by year through my employment history. Asked for clarifications on documents, dates, even memories I hadn't thought about in years. Then they handed me a printout. It was worse than I imagined, a spreadsheet. Titled, Legacy Phase-Out Strategy. Next to it, a memo. Review employees within 6 months of pension vesting for potential restructuring opportunities. There were 4 names on that list. Mine was one of them. I sat back in my chair. My voice felt tight in my throat. We believe Halcyon engaged in a systemic plan to eliminate older employees. To avoid paying pension benefits, one of the investigators said, We'll need your testimony. This is going to court. I thought of Daniel's voice in that conference room, telling me it wasn't personal. Just business. I thought of every morning I showed up before sunrise. Every weekend call I answered, every young tech I trained. I thought of Leela, and how I'd promised her I'd retire with dignity. I looked the investigator in the eye. What do you need me to do? By Monday morning, federal investigators had seized Halcyon's internal email servers and conducted interviews with 6 current employees. By Wednesday, they had executed a search warrant on Daniel Meyer's office and the HR department. Helen called me almost every evening with updates. They kept everything, she said one night over the phone. Every memo, every spreadsheet, every board presentation. It's like they didn't think they'd ever get caught. The documents painted a clear picture, a strategy crafted over 3 years. A series of memos and PowerPoints describing how to optimize tension exposure by identifying veteran employees who were nearing retirement and systematically removing them just before they became eligible. The plan was presented internally as a financial necessity, a way to boost short-term profits. Names were listed by quarter. Mine was there, labeled under Q for expendables. Helen's voice hardened each time she mentioned it. They didn't just cut you out, she said. They reduced your life's work to a savings column. The next day, Daniel called again. This time, his voice cracked. Tom, I think there's been some confusion about your departure. I'd really like to clear the air. I didn't reply. We're reviewing your service record, he continued, and we may have made an error. If you're open to it, we'd like to meet, maybe this week, and make things right. He was panicking. The story had broken in the local press. Tech giant under federal investigation for pension fraud was the headline in the Chronicle's business section. Halcyon stock had dropped 17% in 2 days. Investors were pulling out. The board wanted answers. I don't think that'll be necessary, I said. Tom, please, he said, his voice almost pleading. Let's not drag this out. We've known each other a long time. Let's resolve this like professionals. No lawsuits, no government involvement. I almost laughed. Daniel, it's already out of your hands. He didn't respond. The next morning, I got a call, this time from the company's legal counsel. Mr. Reilly, the man said, far more measured than Daniel. Halcyon Systems would like to offer you a full reinstatement of your pension benefits, retroactive to your original vesting date, as well as continued health coverage and a financial settlement for any inconvenience caused. How much is the settlement? I asked. $50,000, provided you agree to waive further legal action. I thanked him for the offer and told him I'd be in touch. Then I called Helen. They're scared, she said flatly. That's hush money. They think it'll work. They're hoping it will. But Tom, the case is bigger. Now, bigger than you or me. There are more people coming forward. She wasn't exaggerating. By the end of the week, 15 current and former Halcyon employees had contacted the Department of Labor with similar stories, similar errors, suspicious timing, vague explanations. Some hadn't spoken out before because they were afraid, others because they didn't realize what had been done to them until now, and that $50,000 offer. It went up to 75 by Tuesday, then 100. By Thursday, Helen received a formal inquiry from the company offering a no-fault resolution and confidential reconciliation terms. She advised me to decline. This is going federal, she said. They know it. You hold the key testimony. The jury won't just see numbers. They'll see the man they betrayed. Then came Friday morning. My phone rang. Helen again. Turn on the news, Channel 6. I flipped it on. There, broadcast live, was Daniel Myers, being escorted from the Halcyon headquarters in handcuffs. Federal agents followed behind, carrying boxes of documents and hard drives. Cameras zoomed in on his face. The confident man I remembered was gone, replaced by someone pale, disheveled, lost. The anchor's voice was clear. Federal prosecutors have charged Daniel Myers and Amanda Green, Halcyon's HR director, with multiple counts of wire fraud and conspiracy to deny earned employee benefits. The investigation stems from a whistleblower complaint filed last month, alleging a pattern of fraudulent terminations designed to avoid paying retirement pensions. I turned off the TV and sat in silence. The hum of my refrigerator was the only sound in the room. 29 years and 11 months of dedication, for days shy of what was promised. And now, the people who thought they could quietly erase me were the ones being erased. Helen called an hour later. The Department of Labor has wrapped its initial investigation, she said. They found 18 affected employees. Over $2 million in denied benefits. She paused, then added, Halcyon's board voted last night to terminate both Myers and Green. They've also agreed to restore all affected pensions, issue back pay, and settle legal damages. How much? I asked, still trying to absorb it. For you, she said. $200,000, plus your full pension, plus health care, plus coverage of every legal cost. I didn't speak for a moment. Then I said softly, Lilo would have been proud. Helen's voice cracked for the first time. Yes, she would. Underscore 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 3 months later, I was in my garage, sanding down a solid oak board for a bookshelf I'd promised my daughter. I had the time now, no more early alarms, no more weekend calls about pipes bursting or access panels failing. Just the sound of wood, the scent of sawdust, and the quiet rhythm of work I chose for myself. The pension payments arrived on schedule. The settlement money was untouched in my savings account. I didn't need it. Knowing the truth had come to light, that was payment enough. Daniel Myers took a plea deal, 18 months in federal prison. Amanda Green received 6 months and 2 years of supervised probation. Halcyon was purchased by another tech firm shortly after, which promptly replaced the entire executive staff. The local paper ran a follow-up story. Retired facilities managers records trigger federal probe. They asked to interview me. I declined. I wasn't interested in headlines. I didn't do this for revenge. I did it because after 29 years, someone tried to turn my legacy into a line item. And I wasn't going to let them. My daughter called while I was loading the finished bookshelf into my truck. I saw the article, she said. I'm proud of you. I smiled. I didn't do anything special, just kept good records. And made one phone call. Sometimes that's all it takes, she said. Underscore 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 underscore. As I drove to her house, I realized something. For nearly 30 years, I had spent my days fixing what others had broken. But this wasn't just about fixing something. This was about building something stronger. Not with hammers or blueprints, but with truth. And this time, it was built to last.